This video is to help certain people who are trying to maybe shorten the learning curve when you are just starting out in War Thunder. I had a couple requests to make such a video, and I have requests to make many more. If you have any requests, please let me know, and I am going to try to put out more videos more often, helping out those who would like to see certain things. This is critical because once things start moving in a certain direction, they tend to accelerate in that direction. The mistake many pilots make at this point in time is that they would level out, or they would dive on lower targets that are under me as we speak, or maybe a little bit out, but maybe have a few 1,000-foot advantage. The problem with that is you're better served, and you are helping your team in a more effective way by engaging every highest target. Your goal is to be the highest person on both teams at all times. If a target dives away, don't get greedy. Let them go and move out to the next target. Because if your goal can't be achieved of killing the target that is highest, you take a secondary plan or a secondary goal, a secondary win, matter of fact, which is you force that pilot down. You burned his energy. He is not a problem anymore. He's not a factor for you anymore. In fact, you made him easier prey for everybody else on your team. So, remember, initiative. Initiative is key. At this point in time, we are surveying the field. I want to make sure every single enemy fighter is accounted for before I stop climbing. I won't even level out until every enemy fighter has been accounted for in my mind. And this reason is simple. You don't want to be engaged in a dogfight and have two better, smarter players dive on you because you chose to give up initiative. You chose to give up that ability to get the jump or to take control, to dictate the pace of the fight. The most critical things in a dogfight: speed is life. Energy is speed plus altitude. Don't give up that advantage because you get greedy. Don't follow the first plane's tail you get on down to the floor just so better, smarter players can dive on you later. At this point in time, all planes have been accounted for. And I decided to cut throttle, open up flaps, and start bleeding off some excess energy. At this point in time, it's too much. I would VMAX before I was able to use all this energy. There's no such thing as a shallow dive at this point in time. They are on the floor. These guys are trying to fight as low as they can go. We achieved our objective by forcing them down. We achieved initiative. At this point in time, the American team is completely in control of the pace of this fight. At this point in time, I decided I could pick up some airspeed, lift the flaps, and pretty soon we're going to be giving it some throttle. We are just making sure that we don't get greedy and bleed too much airspeed here. We are completely in control, and we have them playing defensively. They have to worry about not only what's on their 6, but diving P-51s that have twice the energetic advantage, at least in some circumstances here. At this point in time, I'm getting a lead. I send out a real short burst. I am not interested in attempting to follow him. It will bleed too much energy. They're kind of doing a little wagon wheel there. They have too much mutual support. There is no reason to be slow and low in a situation such as this. At this point in time, I know all the enemy fighters are pretty much here. I see one that wants to disengage. He wants to either go back to base or lure someone into AAA. I'm not worried about getting lured into AAA. There's only about 3 ground or 3 AAA units in this area, and I have such an energetic advantage. I know I'm going to overshoot here. I wasn't worried about it. He may have wanted me to overshoot, but he did not have the ability to keep up with either a loop or a climb at that point in time. Not a factor. If we were both going about half the speed we were, it would have been a terrible mistake. At this point in time, I'm not necessarily trying to kill him. My weapons don't have the kinetic energy at this distance to downright destroy him. I'm trying to get him to maneuver, and he is. The fact he's maneuvering is allowing me to close distance a little faster. Every time he does a maneuver such as that, he bleeds airspeed. And, you know, the hits aren't exactly a bad thing. Once we get him lined up in our sights, though, we let a good burst go. And he shreds apart. This is a prime example of what taking initiative and playing smart from the beginning will do. This next segment, I'm just cleaning up a bomber here. You'll notice no crosshair. I did not have time to record a bunch of videos today, and I decided to put this video out. I went back and just pulled a couple random replays from earlier. The reason why I picked this video is because we just discussed how important initiative is. If you look off to the distance there, there's a Focke-Wulf 190 with equal altitude and pretty equal energy. I climbed another 1,000 feet or so before I turned around, but we start off at equal altitude. Nobody has the advantage here. So what do you do when you don't have initiative? How do you take initiative when you start on equal footing? In this particular instance, I did a small little heads up. There was no reason to go full heads up with a Focke-Wulf, which clearly outguns you. The important thing for me to do here is to hopefully bait him into a dive. If I can bait him into a dive, he will get low and slow, and I am more maneuverable. High energy fights, once I'm out of zoom mode, meaning I'm at climbing rate, standard effective climbing rate, I am not zooming with inertia anymore, he will out energy fight me in the vertical. So I want him to go low because I can dive faster and I have more structural integrity in a P-51 than he does in a Focke-Wulf. So I will be able to outmaneuver him once I get him low and slow. I kept up in the dive, as you saw, and I heard his engine behind me going into a climb. I did not want to take my eyes off the screen. I could have free looked at him. I wanted to make sure I did not VMAX there. I was very close to tearing or ripping my wings off. At this point in time, you can tell he is a very good pilot. His goal here is to scissor me as he descends. He's not necessarily diving. He wants to force me into an overshoot, but he also wants to make sure he has enough altitude to then dive on my 6. Although he cannot dive with more inertia and maintain more energy at a higher speed, he can gain speed faster in a dive. So if he can force me to overshoot here while scissoring with a little bit of altitude left, he will accelerate onto my 6 and burst me down with his cannons. So my whole goal here is to maybe get a couple shots on him, but primarily not to completely overshoot. I almost overshoot here, but when he scissored one way, I made sure I scissored the other. That could have ended with him on my 6 had I made a bigger mistake. At this point in time, he is running out of altitude. His options are running low. Once he knows he can no longer out energy fight me with a higher rolling speed, I get behind him. I put out a quick burst, flip his right aileron, and he meets some freeze. In this next segment, and this will be the final segment, I find myself in a 2 versus 3 scenario. Me and another P-51 versus 2 Spitfires, and a Tempest. What we do here is critical. We need mutual support, we need to maintain high energy, and we need to keep whoever gets on the wingman's tail with an energetic reach. Well, the problem is the P-51 with me is going to dive straight in, try to get in a turn fight with a Spitfire, and he gets shot down very, very quickly. I then am in a situation where I need to fight 3 fighters that can outclimb and outmaneuver the P-51. You see my P-51 wingman there, zoom in, he goes heads up with the Spitfire, he tries to turn fight, the Spitfire turns on his 6 and shoots him down. That Spitfire then wheels around on me with an energetic advantage at this point in time. I decide to go heads up, I burst, and I light him up. So far so good, we just turned a 3v1 into a 2v1. I see another Tempest that wants to go heads up. I do not want to go heads up against 420mm, so I quickly evade. I use my energetic advantage from diving to wheel around on his 6, when generally speaking with equal energy, the Tempest is arguably more maneuverable. It does depend on altitude, and it does depend on energy. At this point in time, you're going to realize that the tracers seem to fall behind the target a lot in replay mode. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, but in the normal replay you will see that these are actually sparking up some hits, and you don't really see the flashes on the replay as well. That's besides the point. At this point in time, we are just in pursuit. We want this guy to bleed his energy, although we don't want to get into a low altitude, low speed turning fight. So when he decides to try to bait me into that, I continue to wheel around and turn at a much lower angle and maintain energy. He was already bled of energy, so while I wheel around him at high speeds, he is turning tighter, trying to bleed the edge off of my angle and losing more energy. I do a real quick heads up. Again, I do not want to go heads up against 20s, but it was primarily so I could loop with superior energy and end this. I did not want to bleed all of my speed by flat turning on his 6, although I could have. There is still another Spitfire out there that is looking for me. Closing the gap, and we are going to try to line up a kill shot here since he shows me his canopy. Get a couple good hits. I feel good about that. I break off, and he hits the ground. Now, we expelled a decent amount of ammunition, and we know that someone else out there more than likely has an altitude advantage since we are low. That Spitfire is hunting for me. I take this time to go back and land. All is safe, all is sound, all is grand. He is in pursuit, and he is waiting for me above. We will skip ahead a little bit to get to a little more action. So we're back in the air, and there is this Spitfire. He is at least a few thousand, if not 5,000 feet above me. We are climbing. We are not climbing to catch the Spitfire. We are climbing so we have more energy reserve to dive like this. He is diving on me, and I need energy to survive. Speed is life. Here he comes. He followed me over the airfield. There is no reason for me to try to engage him with energetic disadvantage when he is willing to expose himself to this much AAA. I dive down. He cannot keep up in the dive. He cannot maintain either the speed or the structural integrity without V-maxing and ripping his wings. After his bounce, I bounce back up, I climb, and we repeat this dance 6 or 7 times until he finally realizes that he is not going to catch me in a dive, and he wants some separation, probably to return to base. We will skip forward to that. Okay. Every time he dove on me, off of his bounce, I would get more of my energy back. Whenever you dive and then convert that speed back into energy, you lose some. The P-51 is some of the best energy retention in the game. So every time he dove and I dove, when he bounced back, I would bounce back with a little more energy than he would bounce back with. Eventually, we got on equal energy footing, and he decided it was time to run. At that point in time, he doved. In that dive, we gained some airspeed and some separation until I decided to dive after him. I closed that separation, and I am now playing very smart, and I am not getting into a turn fight with a plane that has far superior maneuverability. I will take my 1 or 2 hits per pass, and I will keep him in the defensive. At this moment in his mind, he is 100% defensive. He is flat turning at sea level, burning energy every time he does, and I am simply exchanging altitude for speed, and then speed for altitude. I control and dictate the pace and place that these engagements will happen. There is no magic to this. There is no crazy skill involved. It is thinking and outsmarting your opponent, forcing him into a position he does not want to be in. He wants nothing more than for me to try to turn on his 6 right now, so he can burn my energy, because once I lose it, I am not getting it back at sea level. I'm not always looping here. Sometimes I need to wheel around faster, so I make high yo-yo. If I go heads up, I make sure to pull off before he has the opportunity to line up a shot. While he's pulling out of those really slow flat turns, he has a really hard time getting his reticle on me. So it is okay to do a quick heads up like that. It is generally pretty safe. We're just looking for the right time and the right moment to line up the right shot. But we were whittling him down piece by piece until he hits the water. I hope this video helped my friends and those individuals whom it was originally designed for. But if anybody out there in internet land happened to like this or learn from it, that is fantastic, and you should let me know what you would like to see in the future, and maybe I can put out stuff to help more people. Thank you.